Angel City on the road facing 2021 NWSL champion Washington Spirit. They end up getting a victory on the road, defeating Washington Spirit 1-0, banger for Christen Press. Lisa, I mean, I think when we're thinking back to the preview, we were looking at these two teams and we were thinking, hey, maybe this is the game where Washington finds himself getting back on track. I believe we both went for the Spirit in this one. And listen, I love hopping on here and talking about how we were incorrect because Angel City had other plans and other ideas. What did you see in this game, Lisa?
Yeah, so we had both picked Washington to win this one. Angel City traveling to DC, Audi Field. It was going to be their first away regular season match and going up against 2021 NWSL champions, runners up to the Challenge Cup. There's a lot of good reasons why we picked Washington to win this one. But ultimately, as the game unfolded, it's incredibly hot in Washington, D.C. today at Audi Field. They took hydration breaks. Looking at the starting lineups, there was a little bit of change on both sides. When we look at just Washington Spirit, they had Goff starting in the back line, which not a usual position for Goff. Traditionally a midfielder, but slotting into the back line, which I think had a pretty good day back there. Matched up against Christen Press, though, and that's incredibly hard. Then when we look at the Angel City side of things, we already know that Freya Coombe has transitioned Jasmine Spencer from a forward that scores a bunch of goals into an outside back that can be a knockdown defender. Today against Washington, we saw Freya Coombe put Tyler Lucy starting forward for Angel City throughout the Challenge Cup, throughout the regular season so far in the back line. So Spencer on one side on the right, Tyler Lucy on the left side. Just interesting. No Ali Riley still for Angel City out due to COVID protocol for the second week. And because of that, that was a bit different to see. Press, Charlie, and Endo in the front line. But to see Lucy in the back line was really interesting. We talked a little bit about this right before we started. Where was Madison Hammond? She was not on the availability report listed as questionable or out. She was available as a substitute off the bench, but having Lucy in the back line matching up against Trinity Rodman, perhaps the speed there, the physicality, I didn't hate that matchup. And I think Lucy did pretty well against Rodman. I mean, looking at the scoreline, Rodman didn't get a goal. She didn't get an assist. So Lucy, job well done. But throughout this match, it wasn't as open as I was maybe expecting it to be. I think Angel City controlled a lot of the possession and just passing the ball around, which is something that Freya Coombe and her side, they like to do. But the opening goal, the lone goal in this match from Christen Press coming towards the end of the first half, this goal is like a typical Christen Press goal. You can't give her space at the top of the box. And if you do, she's going to finish it, but she's incredibly hard to stick with because she's quick and she can get past defenders. And if you give her just an inch of space, she can slice and dice the ball. And that's exactly what she did. She beat the first defender. She cut on the second defender. And as soon as that second defender stood up, instead of keeping their knees bent, staying low, center of gravity, and being able to move their feet with press found just a tiny window and curled the ball in the back post. Kingsbury didn't really have a chance against that goal. So this game was... it happened in the end of the very first half after a bit of a hydration break that we saw in Washington for this match.
Sometimes it's like those moments where you reset, like you kind of just hit a quick reset button in the game. And I think whether it comes from kind of maybe a delayed free kick or delayed safety, or in this case, like a hydration break you're pointing out, sometimes that's what it is necessary for a team to sort of kickstart something, right? And I think we maybe saw that in this game. But I'm with you. I think even from the jump, like before this game, when you saw the starting 11s drop, it caught your attention right away, just because I like the adjustment. I like it from Freya Coombe. You got a number of players that maybe you're trying to get on the field at the same time playing together. And we saw a little bit of maybe a competitive positional battle a little bit with Charlie and Lucy, like what's going to happen there. And then Freya Kum just said, you know what, we're just going to push Tyler Lucy further back in this one and see how this works. And it's early, but it's game one of seeing this adjustment, and we'll see if this is something that Angel City sticks with. But listen, I love the storyline of a new expansion team coming on the road, going up against the defending champions and kind of surprising folks across the league. Not a ton, I'm sure, in terms of the storylines going into this one. Probably a lot of folks thinking that maybe the Spirit we're going to get in front of this one. I know you and I came on here and made that pick as well, but I like it. I love to see an adjustment by the coaching staff and to sort of see that pay off. And then when you're looking on the Spirit side of things, again, with you once more, Lisa, like that was a thing that you noticed, right? You're like, Ashley Sanchez isn't in this game to start. Okay. And you're just like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see what happens. And I think just from the jump, just even as you took a look at those starting 11s, noticing the adjustment for Angel City, noticing the absence of Sanchez or for the Spirit, you're kind of like, okay, this game might end in a, in or at least give us some pleasant surprises. And I think that's what we got in this one.
It's exactly what we got. I agree. You mentioned the Lucy Simone Charlie battle up top. I think that's something that Freya Kum is struggling with a little bit as to which player can provide so much. And I'm a fan of Lucy in the back line, honestly. I mean, it provides a different look. We'll see when Allie Riley comes back, kind of how that shakes out. But for Washington, not starting Ashley Sanchez as a way to give her a little bit of rest, I think it changed things for sure. I mean, the Washington midfield was good and they can control possession, but none of them have the attacking prowess that Sanchez has. And I mean, there's no one in the world that compares to a player like Ashley Sanchez. Looking at the goalkeeper battle between these two matches, Aubrey Kingsbury, she had a good game. Despite letting in that one goal by Press, she had a pretty good game organizationally and in goal, doing essentially what she could throughout this match. Towards the very end of this game, it started to downpour in DC. And this was at a point where Washington was trying to put on a little bit more pressure. You could see that Rodman was getting a little bit tired towards the end of this game, still trying to put in a lot of pressure and a lot of press. But a little non-soccer that I want to talk to you about. And I don't know if you saw this. There's a number of games happening at the same time, but Tyler Lucy dealt with a bit of an injury towards the end of this match. And Freya Kum tries to put on Paige Nielsen, who is back after being out for all season long. In the off season, she dealt with some illnesses and personal things, and formerly with Washington Spirit. So she's back in DC. She was given her championship ring before the match by Michelle Yang, and then as she's trying to be subbed on, this is maybe like 10, 15 minutes left in the match, they put their number on the board and Paige Nielsen has an earring in. And she can't get on the pitch. And the whole training staff is trying to rip out her earring. Meanwhile, Lucy has already left the pitch because she's exhausted, dealing with a bit of an injury. She can't run as well. And she walks all the way around the perimeter of the field. Nielsen can't get on the pitch. They're trying to take her earring out. I am like losing my mind on my couch watching this. I'm like, rip it out. Just cut it out. Like, that's all you got to do. Like, how do you not have your earrings dealt with? Like, so this was mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling to me. I was a high school girls soccer coach, varsity. And if I went to put a girl for 4 years, if I went to put a player in and they had an earring, this happened once. I was like, go sit down. You're not playing.
Uh-oh.
How do you have an earring in? It was mind-boggling to me. I felt bad for Nielsen.
Coach Lisa is tough.
Back in Washington. She wants to play. Coombs trying to get her in her first game, and she ends up getting on in the final minute of stoppage time. She plays for like 90 seconds or something. It just bonkers to me. And poor Lucy is injured and having to run around the field because you can't get another sub in. I was upset. I was like, how is this happening?
It was just like one of like chaotic energy moments, I think, that happened throughout the weekend. Maybe like that could be another segment I think that we could look at and incorporating and attacking through. Like, what was the chaotic energy moment over the weekend? And it almost feels like, at least in every game that took place this weekend, that there might have been one of those. But you know what? The earring didn't end up impacting the result in this game, though.
True.
Angel
Thank
City
gosh.
still picking up the dub, walking away with the 3 points. And we got Washington Spirit with some work to do. We'll see how they look in the bounce back in the following week. Let's talk about the other match that was taking place alongside dual kickoffs going on here for Sunday, which is why we want to, chat about these first at the top of the episode. We also had San Diego Wave FC hosting Chicago Red Stars. This one ending in a 2-1 scoreline. And San Diego Wave FC staying undefeated at the moment right now in the regular season. Casey Stoney and the Wave getting a good start to their regular season here. You love to see it. Honestly, this is like some real, we had to start with the California teams at the top of this hour. This is just like real California vibes going on right now, and I appreciate it so much. But let's maybe chat similarly, about this game as we were the previous game. Things to look out for in this game that maybe we took note of initially, similar to the starting 11s when they dropped. We knew a little bit ahead of time when those availability reports came in. Lisa, we talked about it a little bit when we were doing our preview as well. We were looking at the Chicago Red Star side and saying this is not only going to be the first time that they're heading on the road for their regular season, it's going to be against competition in California, a state that they've never played in before. We were talking about that. And we were also talking about the maybe the lack of personnel that they would have unavailable for this match. And turns out that came to fruition in this game, that again, without another big piece in Mal Pugh, missing somebody like Morgan Gautrat, but also some of the massive ground that their midfield is covering right now due to the kind of this fluctuating 3-back that Chicago is playing right now. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of that settle in on the legs a little bit, as we're starting to see some players listed as questionable as well for the Red Stars midfield. So when we're looking at some of the pieces here in this game, not seeing a player like Danny Colaprico getting the start for the Red Stars, seeing somebody like Alyssa Motts, in place of Aaron Wright. So just a couple of things right away that stick out there. And then obviously for the San Diego Wave side as well, noting that Amir Ali got the start. And there was a lot of enthusiasm about that because Ali is a player that is showing a lot of great promise early on in the early months of this year with San Diego. So it was great to sort of see her get the start. And unfortunately, injury brought her out of this game, and we'll talk a little bit about that though. But when you look at these starting 11s drop, you see that, you realize Jody Taylor's getting the start, Jakobsen on the bench. So again, similar to what we were maybe seeing with Spirit and Angel City, we're like, okay, some adjustments here, some different things, some different looks that we're getting a look at here. And we talked for San Diego on their side, and during the preview we said, well, this is also San Diego's first look at a team like the Red Stars, and they're getting a chance to maybe play a team that's used to being a little bit more organized in their shape, a little bit more organized defensively. And we thought maybe might come down to keepers a little bit, because we had 2 number ones going head to head here with Kaylin Sheridan and Alyssa Nair. Now, in terms of the play out of this game, goals kind of happening over long stretches of periods here. Again, we're starting to see a little trend here where we're looking at goals in some of these games over the weekend as we get through them, coming more towards the second half of these games. And we see in this game, Alex Morgan continuing her goal streak in the regular season. And we see in the second half, after some pretty even play in terms of nobody being able to find the breakthrough on goal, we get a breakaway opportunity here in this match. Unfortunately, Kayla Sharples with a foul in the box and is awarded a penalty to San Diego. And of course, Alex Morgan gets on up there, head to head with her national team teammate, and converts, sends Alyssa Nair the complete opposite way. And then just ahead of the hour mark, San Diego's up 1-0. And it just sort of felt like maybe because of Chicago kind of going into California limping, that this probably was going to be enough for San Diego. That was kind of the vibe that I got from this as I was watching it happen in real time. I was like, well, that's unfortunate to go nearly an hour and then concede, but not only just concede, but concede by way of a penalty. That's
I
tough.
know. It's super tough. And for Morgan, that's her third penalty kick in 2 games, right? She had 2 in her last match for the regular season. Looking at our picks for this one, you had a draw in this one. I did have San Diego winning, but we have to look at, you mentioned the starting lineups and the availability reports for Chicago. There was, we knew heading into this that Mallory Pugh is most likely going to be out and Morgan Gautrat in the midfield. But then coming into this match just this morning and last night, the availability report listing Danny Colaprico as questionable, Vanessa DiBernardo, Alyssa Nair, and Erin Wright, all as questionable. So honestly, to see Nair get the start, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised to see that, because when I saw that on the availability report, I was thinking it's a long season and you don't want, Nair was out for so much of last year because of the Olympics and everything that happened there. So to see her get the start and play full 90 and play a good 90, she looks good. She looked mobile. It had mentioned it was her back coming into this game. No Erin Wright coming into this match either. So the availability on that sense was a little different. And then Amira Ali, getting the start, I think making a huge impact and a huge difference in this game, playing really, really well. We saw lots of different turnover from San Diego as well, with Jakobsen coming in and Turnbow getting a lot of time, and Johnson, which is good to see all the versatility there. But Sheridan, you mentioned this is a bit of a goalkeeper battle. She ends up with the yellow card. I know we still have to talk about some of the other things and the other goals that happened throughout the end of this game, because it was more chaos as we neared the end of this game. There was an initial Chicago goal that was called offside. After that happened, it was going to be the equalizer, called back. But then ultimately, San Diego, they net a second one. Kaylee Reel ended up being wide open at about the 6-yard box. A beautiful ball sent in by Turnbow, and Reel, just as a center back, so much composure to just chest the ball and volley it into the wide open net. As we're watching the replay on the stream, cuts back to real time, and before we know it, Chicago's celebrating. They get their another goal just about a minute later. This was a really good goal by Ava Cook, a nice response, but also happening in the 90th minute. And then
it was a wild finish.
Kaylin Sheridan gets a yellow card right after that. She kicks the ball to the corner flag. She was pissed off after that happened. Goalkeeper for San Diego. So it was like goal, yellow card, stoppage time, end of the game. Bam. I was like,
I respect the energy. Listen, at that point, you're essentially looking to secure the bag on a clean sheet, and we see that, and it's just, and that's a bummer to sort of happen, like see that happening, towards the ending of a game. If you're San Diego now looking to extend your win streak in the regular season, but make no doubt about it, this was absolutely San Diego's game. From the jump, there just was some disconnect at moments for this Red Star side. They're just unable to string together passes during stretches of the game. Turnovers happening, throughout it. We got to see Alex Morgan continuing to make these massive runs and getting in behind the back line. She's looking great, quite frankly. Alex Morgan has been part of the key to San Diego's success right now on the pitch, and Casey Stoney has been making her adjustments as she sees fit. It was great to see Ali get this start, and unfortunately picked up a little bit of a knock earlier in the game, came off, looked like she got some wrap put around her knee, then went out and gave it another go, but unfortunately had to be subbed out once more. So hopefully nothing, that's more of a precaution than anything, but we'll see.
And Ali, she went down with a bit of the injury. She got tended to on the sidelines, and she came back in and tried to play through it, and ultimately just being subbed off relatively early throughout this match against Chicago. So that was interesting to see. She came out in the 34th minute, and Jakobsen coming in for Ali at that point. So hoping
another player who was getting in behind the Red Stars back line once she came onto the pitch. So I think maybe there might be an argument for some folks to say like, oh, like this, it was a narrow scoreline, but I don't believe this game was
No.
even by any means. And you can, whether you look at the highlights or if you look at the numbers, that's just what it is. Unfortunately, a lot of good ideas, maybe if you're the Chicago Red Stars, but unfortunately the personnel just is not matching the ideas on the pitch at the moment. So we'll have to take a look and see how they eventually bounce back.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's really important that we're starting this segment and this episode talking about Angel City and San Diego because they top the standings right now in the regular season. San Diego, number 1, 9 points. They remain at the top. Angel City, 6 points at number 2, and Portland right under them with 4 points. So there's a big disparity between that. Who would have thought that these Angel City sides or this expansion sides would be at the top? Take a screenshot of the standings because it's so fun to look back come August, September and say, remember, I mean, we'll see kind of how things shake out, but it's impressive really to watch these expansion sides. And we knew this coming in because they have great coaches, they have experienced players, they have a little bit of youth, and it's finding that identity, which throughout the Challenge Cup, we saw each side, San Diego and Angel City, finding more of that identity about what type of team they wanted to be.
Yeah. And we'll see if it keeps up. It's a long season, Lisa. I'm
Very
excited
long.
to sort of see it play out right now, early in these beginning weeks of the regular season. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I like that you told everyone to take a screenshot because it might, who knows, towards the end of the season, it might look a little different towards the end.